Hi, guys. So our last speaker before the break is the founder and lead UX designer at Rewired UX. Sophia Prater is joining us all the way from Atlanta on the east coast of America, where she teaches her OOUX methodologies to companies like Facebook, MasterCard, HubSpot, Intercom, Delta Airlines, and CNN. Fun fact, she's an expert at foraging for mushrooms and reckons it'll be her winning survival skill during a zombie apocalypse. You sound like a good friend to have, Sophia. Over to you.
Hello, hello. So happy to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. It is afternoon for me. And I'm very excited to talk to you today about what I think is a much better way at divvying up complexity. And I want you to come away from this talk with two principles of object-oriented UX that are going to help you immediately design more intuitive digital environments. So you can start using this tomorrow. So hopefully it's going to be very applicable, and let's just jump into it. Hold, please. So I look at a lot of portfolios, and this portfolio piece that I was looking at, I enjoy mentorship a lot. So with UX mentorship comes with looking at a lot of portfolios. And I was looking at this portfolio. It's been slightly edited to protect the not so innocent here. And this is a flow of a redesign for signing up for membership at Zoo Atlanta. All right. And I'm looking at this and these beautiful kind of nice low fidelity wireframes. Looks good. You've got this nice flow. But I'm stepping back and I'm thinking as I'm looking at this, is there really just one level of membership if you're joining a zoo membership? And do you not have to pay? Where do I, oh, you do pay here. Where does it say how much I have to pay? Okay, there's a bunch of lorem ipsum here. And I can pay, but what about different levels? I think that there's probably different levels, right? So I open up a new tab in my browser, and within moments on zooatlanta.com, I'm on this page here. All right. And I see portfolio pieces like this a lot. I see this actually out in production a lot, where I can tell that complexity has been swept under the rug. All right. And then what happens when complexity is swept under the rug? You either have to handle it when you're in higher fidelity, or developers have to handle it, or you end up passing it down to the end user, and the end user ends up handling it. So this Zoo Atlanta example is an extreme example of complexity being swept under the rug early on in the name of low fidelity, but something that I see a lot. So from an object-oriented UX perspective, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end, actually, what object-oriented UX actually is. But from the perspective and how I would handle this if I was going in to redesign the membership flow for Zoo Atlanta, I might start with a page like this and probably look at the existing system, but I'm not going to be looking at how I might add some extra pixels here to separate these columns a little bit more. I'm not going to be looking at layout. I'm not going to be looking at the arrangement of the elements on the screen. I'm going to be trying to extract the data. I'm going to be extracting the content. I'm going to figure out what are the things that are important here and what is their chemical makeup. So I'll probably identify a membership level as an object, a thing that has instances. There's a lot of membership levels. There's 1, 2, 3, 6 of them. All right. And I'm going to start figuring out what is the structure of a membership level. At least today, what is the structure? So we've got a title, we've got price, we've got an amount that is tax deductible. We've got the number of adults, the number of children, the guest tickets that you get, the discounted all rides wristband. No idea what that is. Your passport to adventure booklet, whether you get that or not, and whether you're free family membership. That's kind of confusing, isn't it? The free family membership. None of these are free. The $500 one is free. Okay, so I might ask some questions about that too. And I'm going to rip all of that away from the existing screens. I don't even want to look. I want to get the data out, get the meaning, and I'm going to arrange this in what I call an object map. Okay, so an object map, there's very important color coding in an object map. We've got objects on blue, we've got core content on yellow, and we've got metadata, all the stuff you might sort and filter by, got that on pink, okay? And I'm gonna start talking through this structure with the business and maybe asking some questions to the end users about this as well. So maybe through conversations with the business or even through some user interviews, we realize that that passport to adventure thing is old. That was in there from 3 years ago. We don't even do that anymore. Or maybe the users like don't even care about that. It's not even something that matters when they're signing up for a membership. So we realize that we can get rid of that. And maybe through those user interviews, we actually realize that what really matters is, you know what, you get free tickets, some free tickets, depending on what membership level to brew at the zoo. I want to know, do I get 2 free tickets or do I get 6 free tickets? That's way more important. So let's actually move that up. We might actually even rearrange these depending on user priority as well. And then this is where things get really interesting. I might start thinking about other objects within this system that play into this experience. So you've got a member level. What other objects might be a part of this? The really important one is your member account. Okay, so we got to figure out what is the chemical makeup of a member account. We got name, email address, etc., a date joined, and there's a connection between these two, right? So a member level or a member account has one current member level. You can't have more than one member level at a time, right? I need to confirm that with the business. I assume that you can't have one current member level at once. So one member account has one member level, but a member level is going to have many accounts associated with it. This is going to be admin only, right? And through this conversation, we might find out it's actually really hard on the admin side right now for them to just see which members are at what member level. Okay, so now we're actually not looking just at the users, the end user side, but also looking at the employee experience side as well. We're looking at both sides of that coin. And then we might also continue this conversation and talk about, well, members actually are often calling in because they want to know what membership they had last year. I upgraded, but I don't remember what I upgraded from, and I want to actually roll back to that. Or I downgraded and I want to roll back to what I had before, but I don't remember what level I had before. Maybe they get a lot of calls about that. So we can say, well, let's just show them that. In our redesign of the member account, we can show, here's your current member level and here's your history. Let's show them that too. And the developers say, oh yeah, that's easy. We have that information. We just need to show it on that member account and reduce those customer service calls. And then it gets even more interesting. Other conversations might come up where we realize, actually, one of the really important reasons that people become members at the Atlanta Zoo is for those summer camps for their kids. And they get first access to these summer camps. They get good discounts to these summer camps. And it's an organizational nightmare for them to figure out which family members of the 3 kids that we have at different ages, which kids get discounts at which camps. So we might also identify family member as an object that connects down to that parent member account. So every family member has one parent member account, and a member account has one-to-many family members. So a member account might just be one person, but could you add additional people and put their ages on there? And then maybe we could even show camp. And we have the structure of a camp, okay? So we have a name, age range for the camp. This is 1st and 2nd graders, the date range, the base cost. And of course, we're gonna wanna add the camp discount that you get on the member level, right? And then at the camp, we wanna say the camp has many kids that are going to this particular camp, and many of those kids are actually family members within a member account. All right, so here, having these conversations completely devoid of screens, I'm starting to make real systemic change. I'm making real benefits for the business. We're bringing the developers into these conversations and really making deeper change than we would at just that surface screen level. And this is what object-oriented UX really helps us do, is tackle this kind of complexity and ask these sort of complex questions. It's kind of a power tool to be able to do that, to be able to tackle complexity. Did you notice that one too? A family member has 0 to many camps they're attending, or even attended. So do I get a history of the summer camps that all my kids attended within my member account? Okay, so how do we break up complexity? How do you break up complexity? By object or by task flow or user story or use case? We used to call them use cases. I call them user stories or flows or features, even screens. Dividing up complexity by pages, big problems with that. Okay, so in the world of OUX, we first figure out what our objects are, and we're going to talk a little bit about what does it mean to be an object in a moment. What are our objects? And we're going to first divide complexity up by object. And then after that, we'll figure out what verbs go with those nouns. So let's figure out what the nouns are. What are those big important nouns? And then figure out what does a user want to do to all of those? Figure out what are our different roles and how do our different roles want to act upon that object? And it's a much more graceful way, I believe, that I have found in my experience to break up complexity than trying to slice and dice a very complex system by task flow, which is traditionally what we end up trying to do. So the interesting thing here is a lot of our developers or our technical architects are already thinking in objects because databases are organized in objects. They're already creating kind of these entity relationship diagrams. They're trying to figure out what the things are. And what will often happen is they'll take your screens and your flows that you've designed and all your beautiful UI and then reverse engineer it to extract the data model, which is not the most efficient way of working. Instead, you can actually collaborate with your developers so that the data model that is created is actually user-centered. And this is a great way to actually future-proof your design so that you don't end up painting yourself into a corner because the way that the database was designed doesn't actually mimic the way that the business works and the way that the users think. So you can collaborate with your developers on that data model, align it up, and make sure that you're really clear also on the scope as you collaborate with your developers and the business as well. But here's the fun thing. It's not just developers and databases that are kind of thinking and working in objects. Human beings, us human beings, we think in objects too. So your users, they are human, most of them, I believe. So are you, most of you, I believe, are humans. And these human brains that evolved for thousands and thousands of years before the iPhone and before the MacBooks and before all of these screens, we evolved in this physical world. And in this physical world, what we got really good at is identifying things and detecting patterns. This is what the majority of our brain does, is it identifies objects and the relationships between these objects and our relationship to the objects. What can we do to these objects? So if you think about it, just visualize a coffee shop for a moment. You can close your eyes. Yes, I have an OUX cup. All right, so got that coffee shop in your head? You probably are thinking about tables and chairs, maybe like a wall of mugs, maybe a person with a green apron behind a counter. You're visualizing a lot of things in a space, right? Now, imagine that this coffee shop, wipe that from your mind, and imagine that you walk into a coffee shop, but it's kind of a funky, weird coffee shop. And in this coffee shop, you can tell that there's things in this coffee shop, but you can't quite tell what those things are. All right. So maybe with intense concentration, you identify a chair, or you're like, okay, I found a thing and it's a chair. All right. But you can't tell which table that chair goes with. So maybe you end up sitting in a chair and you put your laptop on a table across the room. All right. Or you can maybe, okay, you say, all right, I've figured out, I've used my deductive reasoning here and I figured out that they've got a chair and I've got a table and they go together, but I can't quite tell the status of that chair. I don't really know whether it's occupied or not. This would be a very difficult environment to navigate. And even those that have visual impairments have so many amazing coping mechanisms and skills to be able to answer the fundamental questions of what are the objects, where are the objects, how do the objects relate to each other, what can I do to the objects, which chair is my chair that I can sit in versus somebody else's chair versus the barista's chair behind the counter. We have to answer these questions to be able to navigate a space. But what happens is when we design digital environments, we're no longer beholden to the laws of physics. So we can end up quite easily doing kind of funky things and making environments that are not intuitive to that brain that has evolved in physical space. So the cool thing is, though, is, I mean, this is the reason why we love technology, right? Because it's not beholden to the laws of physics, because I can edit a document, it's 20 people can edit the same document all over the world, and I can undo, and I can, search a warehouse of shoes, in a click of a button. I love not being beholden to the laws of physics, but there's certain things about the human brain, there's certain laws of physics that we don't want to break because it's just going to confuse our users. So we want to break the laws of physics in ways that empower our users and turn them into superhumans, but we don't want to confuse them. So it's this kind of nice fine line that we have to balance. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. So if you are interested more on the psychology of this, and hang on a second. Can you right there? So I can see the timer. Sorry, I have a timer going. I have no idea what my time is right now. If you are interested, I still can't see the timer. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So if you are interested in the psychology of this and learning more about how our brains are object oriented, I highly recommend this article. I also have this other one called Don't Dead Him, which is I think one of the most interesting articles I've ever written. I think it's really cool. I will have all of these links for you at oaux.com/hi/UXNZ or UXNZ. So the slides will be here, the links to all the resources that I mentioned. Okay, we're not done yet though. And I'll give you that link again at the end. Okay, so how to break up complexity. There's another way that you might be breaking up complexity. By object is one way, or by component. Ooh. Okay, so OAUXers, we're going to break up complexity by object. All the cool kids these days with their design systems are going to break it up by component. And I love me some design systems. Do not get me wrong. Creating design systems is a great step in the right direction toward this kind of consistency. But here's the thing. Your components are the vessels that hold the value. Before you actually start designing those components, the thing that holds what the user's actually coming for, you've got to figure out what value are people actually coming for, right? Are you giving them ketchup or are you giving them glass cleaner, right? You're going to design different packaging for that. So you want your packaging to be specific to the thing that you're actually delivering. And often what design system projects will do is we'll just create a bunch of packaging without very clearly defining what is being packaged. All right, so we want our design system and our objects to work in tandem, okay? We want to figure out first what the objects are and then figure out how we want to package them in a really ergonomic and on-branded, consistent way. Because at the end of the day, our users are not coming to our app for our calendar picker or our nav bar or our homepage tile or any of those things in your component library. We've got to figure out what they're actually coming for. So these guys, these are components, not objects. Our objects are those things of real value. I talk about this with Dan Mall on a very early episode of the OAUX podcast, and he said something that just blew my mind, that most design systems are like a box of IKEA parts with no instructions. OAUX could help provide that instruction, and I 100% agree with that. So you don't want all of these, you can say, I have all of these components. How do we put these components together in a way that's really meaningful for our end users? All right, so 2 laws and 2 OAUX wins for you to come away with, and I truly believe you can start using these tomorrow. You can start analyzing your designs for these and start cleaning things up. Okay, so the first one is the OAUX law of attributes. All this is saying is objects that are the same should look the same, okay? So what we're trying to avoid here is what I call shapeshifter objects. These are objects that change shape arbitrarily, reordering and changing the display of their attributes. So let's do some examples. So Google Docs versus Google Drive, all right? We have Google Docs, then we have the twilight zone of Google Drive where things are just slightly different. So it looks different, the ratio is different. I mean, then we have Docs on my Pixel as well. And we see how the order of the attributes change, and even what attributes show change. So if I'm in Drive, I can see who edited the document the last time. If I'm in Docs, I can see the date that was edited the last time. Like, oh, because when I'm in Docs, the date matters so much more, but when I'm in Drive, the person matters so much more. These are just completely arbitrary decisions. Things get really weird. Like I can kind of let some of this slide, but things get really weird when I start interacting with this. All right, so when I interact with a document in Google Docs, I have to click the 3 little dots and I get these menu items. If I'm in Drive, I right click to get to my menu and I get these items. I get different items in a different order. I even get different icons in here. So if you've noticed, rename versus rename. So all that wonderful Google material design of creating an amazing design system, if you're not actually applying it for consistency across objects, what Google is asking their users to do here is to memorize how I interact with a document in Docs versus how I interact with it in Drive. All right. This would be like asking you to having a can of Coke or something and say, okay, well, you got to open this can of Coke differently if you're in the kitchen, whether you're in the living room, or if you go outside, you have to open it differently. It's not how our brains work. And then even further, if I go into Gmail and if I'm attaching a document in Gmail and I try to right click on it or act upon it, maybe I want to change the title while I'm right there. I of course cannot do that. I get a different menu. This should all be the same across the board. And if there are any changes, they should be very intentional. I actually today went to, I wanted to get a new example in here of an example of a site doing this correctly. And I used to use Kickstarter as my example because they were very, very consistent across all of their pages. A project in Kickstarter always pretty much looked the same. They've introduced a bunch of shapeshifters though. So these are all projects. I'm not going to go through all of the differences here, but depending on whether it's a featured project or whether it's like a sidebar project, I don't know, like in some different place other than being featured, or a category. This one right here is under search results. This is the project within the creators page. Things are just moving around. How this object is communicating the percent that it's funded changes changes component by component. Now, sometimes you want a small version and a big version. Sometimes you want like a row version and a card version. That's fine. But if you get really clear on your attributes and the prioritization of those attributes, you can keep that consistent all the way across and not add extra cognitive load on your users and extra development effort and extra design effort. This is more effort all along. And sometimes you need to have shapeshifting, especially in complex business tools where, okay, if I see the patient, if I'm in an electronic healthcare records or something, and I see the patient in one view versus another view, maybe I want to see different data. All right. But you just want to be really intentional about it. And a lot of these examples, I think all of these examples, is a product of designing through flows or designing page by page. So to give you a good example, oaux.com. So if you see the OAUX happy hour, which you are invited to, of course, if you see the OAUX happy hour being promoted on the Get Involved page or on a happy hour recording detail page or on the resources list footer, it looks exactly the same everywhere. We are reusing that. I have to say though, when we realized that our happy hour recordings for the OAUX, it's like at the OAUX meetup, for the happy hour recordings, I realized that I was not actually linking to the OAUX happy hour. So somebody might come to that recording and be like, how do I join the next happy hour? I don't know how. I realized that like 2 weeks ago or something. It's like, oh, we got to get a promotion for the happy hour on the happy hour recording detail page. And I started sketching a new version. I did. I got about 30 seconds in before I realized we already have this. Let's just reuse what we already have. So it's very easy to do this. I still do this all the time. I did recognize it about 30 seconds in that I already have that and I can reuse it. But think about places where can you reuse the existing component so that you can reinforce to the user what that thing is. Okay, on the homepage, if you see a resource on the homepage, on the resources page, on Rick's profile or on anybody's profile, this is going to look exactly the same. So if we divvy up complexity by features or flows first, we run the risk of creating and recreating objects over and over as they show up across features and flows. All right. So the OAUX law of objects, different objects should look different. So this is just the flip side. So when the same object should look the same across context, we want different objects to be differentiated. Okay. So what we do often is we mix these up in an environment. It's like going to a party where half of the people are changing clothes constantly, and the other half of the people at the party are all wearing the exact same outfit and masks. Okay. And it's hard to like learn who's at the party when that's happening. So while we also want to consolidate by avoiding shapeshifters, we want to differentiate by avoiding our masked objects. So masked objects are different objects that have identical representation. So here's an example in LinkedIn. I do like that Pablo's in a circle. That's good. This hashtag here. So we've got a person, a group, a company, and a hashtag. And you can kind of blur your eyes and take a step back. Pablo, all right, he's in a circle. He's got a face. That's fine. Still pretty much the same structure. Hashtag has got a big hashtag icon. I'll give that one a slide. But group and company, like if I didn't know better, I could think IDEO was a group and Service Design Network was a company. And there's no labeling on this to let me know one way or the other. And joining a group versus following a company is very different. Somebody might think the Service Design Network is a company and join is a way to like submit your application. All right. So what we want to do, and of course with LinkedIn, this is also mixed with shapeshifters too. So a group, even though it looks the same as a company here, it looks different than a group being represented on another screen. So group sometimes looks like something else and then sometimes doesn't look like itself. Here's lampsplus.com. Same thing. We've got a homepage tile, promotion tile, and anything can go in it. So flexible. We can put a room category, a tool, a sale, a curated collection. These are very different in the business model and in the user's mental model. Okay. They go to different places as well. YouTube does a really nice job of this. So in YouTube, we've got a video, a playlist, and a channel, or kind of some of the main objects in YouTube. And they very clearly look different. We've got Charlie here in a circle. Love people in circles. I'll put people in circles all day. No reason to. It's a face in a circle. It is very, very easy for the brain to recognize that. And then with the playlist, we've got this kind of black bar along the side, which changes the ratio of the video. And we've got this 28 and this icon. It's very clear. I can stand back, I can blur my eyes, and I can still tell the difference between them. So if we divvy up complexity by components first, without thinking of our objects, then what we do is we run the risk of creating generic cards, generic components, and masking our objects, which those are the things of value that the users are coming for. So we really want to make sure that they're identifiable. Now, there is something to be said about having base components. You might have a base card, and then that card gets differentiated based on what's in it. And you don't have to do a lot. This can be simple ratios, simple borders, little things with design can help differentiate. Icons are great as well. So how can we be better complexity wranglers? Object-oriented UX to the rescue. Okay, so OUX is a philosophy for designing digital systems that respects the fact that people think in objects. And because people think in objects, we need consistent and recognizable objects to be able to understand and operate in any environment or product. Okay, this is true for the physical environment and of course digital environments as well. So OUXers, what we do is we deliberately align the software, the app, to the user's real world mental model. So we figure out what do users think about this problem domain? What are the things that are important to them in this problem domain? How do they all connect? Okay, let's reflect that in our digital system as much as possible. So what that does is that brings down the learning curve. I don't have to learn a bunch of new concepts. Those concepts are exactly what I expect to see in a given problem domain. And this really helps those abstract digital worlds be as naturally intuitive as possible. And this also is the secret weapon for breaking down complexity. I just tried to wink, didn't go very well. Okay, so we, the OUXers, which I hope you all become an OUXer, answer these questions before designing a single screen. What are the objects in the user's mental model? What are the objects' relationships to each other? What calls to action do objects offer users? So what can different users do to each of these objects? And what are the attributes that make up these objects? What is the most important information that users need to know or the business needs to translate to the user about each object? And this aligns to the best acronym in the whole wide world, Orca. And the Orca process is what I teach. And this is an iterative process. So in the Orca process, we go through 4 rounds of the Orca process. So we hit each of these pillars, the O, the O's, the R's, the C's, and the A's in increasing level of fidelity. So we start off with discovery, where we're just smoking out complexity. This is a great way to just come up with a bunch of questions. What are the important objects? What do we call things in this system? Oh man, we have 3 different words for this thing. Can we pick a word? Let's make sure we all have the same definition. How do the things connect? What are all the things that a user can do to those things? It's a great way to do a functionality audit. Instead of thinking about all the functionality within a system, think about it object by object, and then the attributes, breaking down the attributes of those objects. Then we go into requirements, where we get into a little bit more detail, a lot more detail, really put each of those under the microscope. And then prioritization. So this is when we cinch in and say, what are we going to develop first? And once we decide what we're going to develop first, but we've figured out kind of how it sits in this wider context. So what we move forward with, we're not painting ourselves into a corner. We're not creating a bunch of UX and technical debt, because we understand that whole system, the whole wider system, and how everything connects. Then we go into our screen design. Then we go into sketching and prototyping and testing. And this is 15 steps, Sophia. Holy moly. This is something that you can do in a week. This is something that you can do it's kind of hard to do it in a day, but this is something that I've heard people spend 8 weeks on, this Orca process. So 2 months maybe, to really understand your system very, very clearly and get really strategic, but you can also spend a week on it. And you don't have to do all these steps. This is a scalable, adjustable, flexible process. All right. So like I said, I've got more, I've got so much more to give at OUX.com. I've pulled out, I didn't mean to go there, but I guess I did. Just I clicked on it. I've got all the resources here that I've mentioned, a few other resources that I think that you would like, and also a discount code. I have a crazy online course. It's a beast of an online course, and I've got a discount code for you there as well. So thank you so much. I hope to see you at a table. I guess I'm going to go make a table and we can talk more. Thank you.